for more than Malinda Haring joins us on the program. She's a non-resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council's Eurasia Center and a Ukraine expert. Thank you for joining us, Malinda. So Ukraine has said that it hopes that this deal will include security guarantees for Kyiv, but for now there's of course been no mention at all of that. So what, if anything, does Kyiv have to gain from signing this deal, at least as it stands in its current version?
Hi, Aaron. So Kiev has a lot to gain. When you just look at the contract, it looks like extortion, but that's not what's at play. So don't take a literal reading of the contract. It's not that long ago that Zelensky and Trump were engaged in a battle, a very serious battle of words. And it's amazing what Zelensky has managed to do. He's managed to de-escalate the conflict, and now he's being welcomed as a hero by Donald Trump today. That is a big accomplishment. But what the Ukrainians are looking to do, they're looking to have a real conversation about the future of U.S. assistance to Ukraine. And this rare earth deal starts that conversation. There are no security guarantees in the agreement, as you said. But that's why Zelensky is coming to Washington today to talk to Trump directly.
So you said, just to look at what Zelensky has done. You say that he's being welcomed as a hero in Washington. So what do you think his strategy is here with this deal? I mean, how much public support do you think that he stands to gain or to lose if he accepts an agreement ultimately without U.S. security guarantees in exchange?
So I don't think it's very relevant, honestly. The Ukrainian people are firmly behind him after Donald Trump insulted him over and over again. There was enormous unity in Ukraine. The country is behind him. And you guys had an old lady talking about how she doesn't support the deal. In general, though, the political class says do it. There's no other choice. So I think in Kyiv, there's an understanding that this has to be signed. And honestly, this deal is not very enforceable. I've talked to lawyers who say, yeah, good luck enforcing it. It's going to take a long time to put any of these deals into place. And finally, the next administration, the president that follows Donald Trump, could cancel it in the stroke of a pen. So I would not get wrapped up in this at all. This is red meat for Donald Trump's base. He promised to make a good on his promise to get something out of the Ukrainians. He's taking a victory lap today. So I think we should all enjoy it for the theatrics it is.
I would love to hear you expand on what you just said, which is that, which is about the enforceability of this deal. Donald Trump, of course, is often painted as a savvy deal maker. I mean, that's kind of what his job has been prior to the second administration in the White House. So what do you think his strategy is there? I mean, well, I think it's impossible to have a conversation about what we see happening without imagining the strategies behind it, especially because the consequences are enormous. So if this deal is unenforceable, is this really just Donald Trump trying to excite his base?
Yes, I think it is. Look, there are some things that are interesting about it. So the United States and the rest of the world is very dependent on China for rare earth metals. So Donald Trump is smartly looking for alternative sources. And Ukraine has quite a bit. It's very rich in rare earth metals. So the world is waiting to get a hold of these things. Ukraine gets something though from this agreement. It's hoping that by Trump signing this agreement, it's signaling U.S. future commitment to the building and development of these resources, which is a signal to Putin to back away. I don't think it's a strong enough signal without security guarantees, but it's a step in the right direction. So this deal, though, when you look at it, there's no specific monetary numbers in it. It's very empty. The lawyers I've spoken with, I'm not a lawyer, but the lawyers I've spoken with say that this thing cannot be enforced, and it's going to take a long time to put into production. So I think this is simply a victory lap for Donald Trump. He can move on. He got what he wanted, and now he needs to focus on actually bringing a peace deal between Russia and Kiev. That's the next big thing he needs to do with this war.
Staying on the theme of this kind of victory lap for Donald Trump, I wonder how much of this has to do with the fact that back in 2019, Donald Trump infamously attempted to condition U.S. military aid to Ukraine on Zelensky's willingness at the time or not to investigate Hunter Biden, of course, his then rival's son, his then rival's Joe Biden's son, rather. So how much do you think that whole episode is playing into what we see happening now? I mean, there's history, in other words, between Volodymyr Zelensky and Donald Trump.
There absolutely is, Aaron. And that old relationship, that old bad blood was seen, I think, in the public last week when they were exchanging insults. Donald Trump remembers. He is someone who holds on to grudges. And his son, Donald Jr., really, really dislikes Zelensky. And he makes that very publicly known. Elon Musk is not a fan. So, but there are tempering influences within Trump's inner circle. Many of his advisors are strong and hawkish. I would point to the National Security Advisor. I would point to General Keith Kellogg. So I think Trump is balancing these things out. But at the end of the day, Trump does not want to be a boob. He does not want to be taken advantage of. The history is pretty clear that Putin breaks his promises and that he's not reliable. Donald Trump is smart and he knows that. And he also is not going to capitulate and give he's not going to sign on the dotted line for nothing in return from Moscow. So I think these are all the factors that we see playing out and why the relationship has changed so dramatically. And finally, Donald Trump is not a normal president. It's important to remember that he is not ideological and he can change on a dime. So what we're seeing, you're a dictator one week, you're my best friend another week, is normal. That's how Donald Trump operates.
On a larger U.S. foreign policy level, Melinda, does this deal explicitly leveraging U.S. aid in exchange for some sort of economic benefit, does it have any real precedent, at least in recent foreign affairs interactions between the United States and its allies or beneficiaries of its aid? I mean, how atypical or not is what we're seeing happening now?
Aaron, I think the explicit transactional nature of it is catching us all off guard. I can't remember a deal that's so bald and ugly and transactional and one-sided. But in general, that's the point of U.S. foreign policy. Our State Department and our leaders are supposed to be finding and making policy that benefit Americans. So I think Donald Trump is unusual in that he's much more outspoken and he's much more intent on making sure that the deal benefits the United States and is less interested in what it brings to others.
Malinda Haring, thank you so very much for your time and coming on the show today. We'll, of course, be keeping a close eye on what does ultimately come out of that deal later today.